What if I told you there's a used Porsche out there that's sitting on the used market for less than the price of a brand new Toyota Camry? Sounds absolutely insane, right? Well, in today's video, I'll be breaking down exactly what Porsche this is, how to spot a solid deal on one, and I'll also share my thoughts about Porsche as a brand. And for those of you out there who are about to comment and say like, oh, you said Porsche wrong, it's called Porsche, all I have to say is, hey, but first, before I get into any of that Porsche stuff, my name is John. Welcome to Blackbird Productions. I create videos like this every month, just talking about cars and anything car related that's on my mind. I like to talk about it. And also I create car reviews every month. So I have my upcoming car review coming up in October, and I'm trying to make it a little bit more of a spooky vibe just to kind of fit the theme of October. So I'm just now starting the script on that, and you can say I do have a car to review, thankfully, for October. So I hope you're definitely looking forward to that. So if that sounds exciting to you, definitely feel free to subscribe for more content, and also consider leaving a like on this video. It definitely helps me, and it helps those out there who are trying to find a good bargain deal on an exotic sports car, like the one I'm about to talk about today. So with that, let's get into today's video. So the vehicle that I'll be talking about today is the Porsche Boxster Cayman, specifically the 987 generation, which I'm going to dive a little bit into just because I feel like for those unacquainted with the Porsche ethos, there is a little bit of history that I have to detail. And trust me, it's not going to be like an info dump of 20 minutes of Porsche history, because I know people get bored pretty easily on this platform. So I've detailed the history into a couple of bullets, and it's basically just all stuff that you need to know about the 987 specifically. So without further ado, let's talk about the Porsche Boxster / Cayman 987 generation and how it fits into the broader Porsche cinematic universe. Back in 2005, Porsche introduced the 987 Boxster as an entry-level sports car, a way for enthusiasts to get into the Porsche brand without jumping straight into a 911. Then around 2006, Porsche expanded their family with the Cayman, essentially a stiffer coupe version of the Boxster that slotted right above the Boxster and just Porsche's broader lineup, but still comfortably below the 911, which at the time was the 997 generation. This positioned the Boxster and Cayman as Porsche's mid-engine duo, separate from the rear-engine 911, and very different from the SUVs like the Cayenne that would eventually dominate Porsche's sales. Even today, while Porsche has hybrids and EVs and all that good stuff in their lineup, the Boxster and the Cayman continue to serve as Porsche's entry point for new buyers. The cars that let you say, yes, I own a Porsche without spending six figures. The 987 generation itself ran from 2005 to 2012 before it was replaced by the newer generation 981. During the 987 Boxster Cayman's life cycle, Porsche made small updates, tweaks to the engines, electronics, and styling, but a few highlights stand out to me. The first one is that the fact that the Cayman was debuted in 2006, which again gave buyers a more stiffer, more driver-focused option compared to the convertible Boxster. And the second thing is Porsche also had fun experimenting with special edition models like the RS60 Spider or the Design Edition or the Black Edition, and several other sports and racing-inspired trims. There's honestly enough trims just in the overall list of the 987 generation that I can go through in an entire video. There's just so many, and Porsche loves their trims. If you go to the website right now, I can guarantee you there's like 10 trims for a single car. It is insane. But nonetheless, Porsche does give you a plethora of options and customizations. Now let's talk about something that comes up from time to time when you're talking about used Porsches, and that is the myths around reliability. And unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and roses with the 987 generation, but there are a lot of exaggerated fears out there. So let's talk about those, specifically the biggest ones. The first one is the infamous IMS bearing, or intermediate shaft bearing. This issue carried over from the older 986 Boxster, and the horror stories are true. If it failed, it could take the entire engine with it. The good news though is with the 987 Boxster generation specifically, Porsche has actually improved the design of the IMS bearing and the failure rate dropped dramatically. Plus, aftermarket solutions exist for these types of things. So you can actually retrofit stronger bearings as a preventative maintenance item. And by the 2009 mid-cycle refresh, Porsche eliminated the IMS bearing completely. And just based on my research, I actually found out that they completely removed the component entirely. I don't know if that's true or not, but you guys can let me know in the comments what you know about the IMS bearing, specifically around that mid-cycle refresh time, around 2009. So in conclusion, with the IMS bearing specifically, it is a risk to buy an older Porsche. Yes, just like with any used car, there's always a risk of failure or something going wrong. So I feel like this issue is just way too over exaggerated, especially if you go to like online forums, people just ask like the same questions, it seems like every year about the IMS bearing. And I guess rightfully so, just because these cars are getting older. So I think it's a fair question to ask, but for the most part, I feel like it's exaggerated. And there's just like a lot of aftermarket solutions, as well as like preventative things that you can do to prevent your engine from blowing up essentially. The second thing is on Boxster specifically, you might see a convertible top that doesn't work properly. And if you see that and the motor actually runs, but the roof doesn't move, it's usually not a catastrophic failure. Just some $20 plastic sockets will do the trick for that one. And essentially the sockets connect to the mechanism that brings the top up and down. It's basically like some cables. And I think, I'm not sure what kind of cables they are, but they're essentially cables that attach onto some ball bearings. And you could actually put the car in service mode, well, what's called service mode. And you can replace those plastic pieces. And it's cool that Porsche actually thought about that, because what happens is some people, I guess they don't fully unlatch the top when they're bringing it down or up. So what happens is if the top isn't secure or it's like slightly unlocked, those bearings will break. And that's a failure point that Porsche actually thought about, because if they were metal, I can guarantee you it probably wouldn't be pretty. But the fact of the matter is these are plastic pieces, plastic components that can be recreated, and there's plenty on eBay and other aftermarket sites that you can get to replace those plastic pieces. So I know about this specific repair just because I've done it before on my 987 Boxster S, the one I owned a couple of years ago at this point. And man, I miss that car, but it was a really neat car and it definitely came with its fair share of quirks. And this was one of those things where one day I had the top not fully latched and I just heard a pop. And that's when I knew like, oh, something happened. Then I actually put the car in service mode. And then next thing you know, I found out that, you know, there was those little plastic bearings. And I mean, honestly, this job can be done in like 5 minutes. That's how long it took me to change that. So if you ever have a dealer try to charge you up like $700 to fix that, I think you're getting ripped off. But anyway, I'll leave some links in the description if you're curious on how to repair that, just so you can hear from other folks who have had that experience. The final item in terms of just reliability for these more older Porsches, being the 987 generation, there are a few small, cheap annoyances on top of just the convertible top that I just mentioned. Things like window regulator failures or minor electrical gremlins. Nothing out of the ordinary for a car of this age, and all relatively inexpensive fixes. So just like I was saying, it's gonna be an older car, so you're gonna have to take good care of it, and you're gonna have to do your due diligence when you're shopping around for a car like this. The good news though is that Porsche owners love their cars and they take very good care of their cars, just in my experience, especially if they're part of the Porsche Club of America, which I'm gonna talk about in a minute. So yes, reliability isn't perfect, but if you're informed and proactive, these cars aren't the financial nightmare that forums sometimes make them out to be. All right, so let's talk about the fun part. And that is finding one of these cars and what a good deal looks like. Personally, I like using cars.com because the interface is clean and easy to work with. When I'm searching for a 987 Boxster or Cayman, I usually filter for 2005 to 2009 models. just because from a cost perspective, those are the ones that you want to get if you're looking for something under $30,000. And usually I filter the cars for under 30,000 miles. I don't really like high mileage cars, especially Porsches. And just basically my general rule is if it has more than, let's just say 90,000 miles, I'll start to it has to be a real vetting process in terms of just the history of the car, where it's been serviced and stuff like that. I just don't want to go through that whole research process. But you know, those cars are relatively cheaper than 30,000. Obviously, I'm sure you can get them in like the $20,000 to $15,000 range. But just know that you have to do extra due diligence for those more higher mileage Porsches, because honestly, for a car like that, they just have to be taken good care of. And I'm sure you'll be getting a really good deal. Anyway, 30,000 miles is my sweet spot. Low mileage, but still at a decent price point that makes sense. And also on cars.com, I'll also filter to best deal just to see which listings stand out. And my thought is, once you find a decent listing to check out, the key, I feel like, is for sure asking the right questions. If you generally are serious about buying one of these cars, I think it's really, really important that you ask the right questions. So some of the basic ones that I've jotted down are, what is the ownership history? So where has the car been serviced? Do you have original documents? And usually Porsche owners, if it's a very, very clean and spick and span car, owners usually keep a folder of all of their invoices and pretty much every service that they've ever done. The second question I'd ask is, does the condition match with what's shown on Carfax? And sometimes I've seen dealers print phony Carfaxes. So I'll go behind them and actually purchase my own Carfax report from Carfax directly themselves. So that way I can compare the two reports with whatever the dealer has given me. But essentially, when you look at the Carfax, just like any car, you're just looking for accident history, you're looking for damage, you're looking to see if the service records that the dealer might give you or the service records that might come with the car actually match up with what's on Carfax. You're also looking for if the VIN number on the Carfax report, as well as the listing online and the car itself, if you have access to the car to see it in person, match up. Because if there's a discrepancy there, I would walk immediately.
Just get out of here, you stupid, dumb animal!
And the last thing I would ask is, are there any pending maintenance items? Because my thought is, if the car needs new tires, if it needs an oil change, or maybe it needs some sort of repair, maybe the convertible top isn't working like I mentioned earlier, you can actually add those into the cost of the car, and you can take off some of the price to compensate for those repairs or those maintenance items. Alternatively, you could also get the dealer to just like take it to a local Porsche, and you could just pay Porsche to take a look at the car, do your inspection, stuff like that. Ultimately, every little detail can become a negotiation point, especially if the car needs new tires, brakes, or has any cosmetic issues. That's money off the asking price, and honestly, you can't go wrong with that. So let's talk about the Porsche Club of America and why that has some significance here, specifically with Porsches in general and their owners. Like I said, Porsche owners take very, very good care of their car. Typically, not always the case, but especially if they're part of PCA or Porsche Club of America, they tend to baby their cars. They stay on top of maintenance, they know the car's history, and they usually document everything. That's why it's so valuable to ask about service records and shop history. And my thought is, if everything lines up and you can snag one of these for under $30,000, you're getting yourself a hell of a deal on a reliable exotic sports car that still turns heads today. And if you're curious about my specific Porsche and what the price was when I bought it, I bought my Porsche, I want to say around 2019 or maybe 2020, around the pandemic. This was before the car prices went insane and inflation went insane. So I actually bought mine for $15,000, and I had it shipped through a third party. I live in Texas, So I had it actually shipped through New York. So it came all the way here from New York. And if I can find the original car listing, I'll put it up on screen right now so you can check that out. I have a number of photos just with me and my dad with our Porsches, because we had not necessarily matching Porsches, but he had the newer 981 generation and I had the 987. And both of them were Boxster S. S meaning sport for the non-acquainted. And to be honest, I loved that car. It definitely sounds like a race car just because the engine is like right behind you. And it's really, really easy to work on. I wouldn't pay any attention to anyone that's saying Porsche is like unreliable or is hard to work on, or the maintenance is expensive. I did all of my own oil changes. I did all my own services. I even changed brake pads. Everything is relatively easy with that car. So at the end of the day, the 987 Boxster and Cayman represents something special in Porsche's lineup. And as I said, I've done my own maintenance and I've owned and driven my own personal car, the 987 Boxster S. I can tell you firsthand, this is very much a gentleman's car, or gentle lady's car. It's a car for people who generally love driving and who appreciate balance, handling, and that Porsche heritage. But beyond the car itself, Porsche has built a community. The owners are passionate, welcoming, and meticulous about their cars. I know I definitely was. And when you buy a Porsche, you're not only buying a car, you're joining an ecosystem of enthusiasts who generally care about the brand and the experience. So if you've been eyeing a 987, don't let the myths scare you away, especially around just that IMS bearing, because that is a very, very popular one among forums and groups. But I will say you definitely want to do your homework and find the right one for you. And you'll have yourself an incredibly rewarding sports car that still feels every bit like a Porsche should, even today in 2025. So if you enjoyed this video, thank you so much for watching. It's definitely been a little bit since I uploaded. I do apologize about that just because I've just been so busy lately. So if you love cars as much as I do, especially Porsches, definitely consider subscribing below. And while you're down there, don't forget to leave a like on the video. This has been John with Blackbird Productions, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.